All right, everybody. I am in Arkansas. So, that title. Oh, I'm very sorry. I forget who suggested it. Out of the frying pan, leaving Blue America. Turns out to have been a pretty good title. A higher number of views on that one than just my, randomly titled, randomly recorded, randomly assembled normal videos. So, I think this one will be called In the Air, traveling between Blue and Red America. Or how about traveling, let's see, no, I'm saving any reference to Into the Fire for the Red State video. There will be many. So I'm, this is a cow pasture I'm walking through, although my grandfather, who is now passed, he could not get rid of anything made of metal. So this 10-acre pasture is full of stuff like, see this truck with the tree that's grown up through it? There's a lot of stuff like that around here. He lived through the Depression, so, it's understandable. He couldn't part with anything. My mother didn't live through the Depression, but she's got the same thing. She can't part with anything. So my stuff, I traveled cross country via U-Haul. My stuff had to go into storage here. Fortunately, U-Haul gives me a month of free storage. I may need longer than that, though, because there was just no room for my stuff in the house. So we're working on that. I don't have a workspace yet. I'm going to be making good use of this new Pixel 6 phone. I'm going to be doing, I guess, mostly videos until I can either figure out how to do a whole podcast on just the phone, or until, I actually have a workspace here. Right now, it's just me and the cows out in the field. So I'm going to read a few comments just to structure my thoughts. Comments on the previous video. First, Rob says, "You will be missed here in Bellows Falls. I wish you the best in your travels. I can't wait to see videos of Arkansas." All right, I appreciate that sentiment. It seems unlikely that I'll be missed in Bellows Falls because I had so very little human contact there. And I think most of the contact that I had with people in Bellows Falls was one way, where they would learn about stuff by watching these videos. I don't think anybody here in Berryville is watching these videos, but if I'm wrong about that, hey, comment. Say, hey, Berryville, right here. What else? Oh, probably the most important and most structuring question of all. Bobby says, "Good luck, KMO. Why are you going back to Arkansas again? I missed that part." All right, well, here's the thing. Here it is. There's a part of our brain that decides things, and there's a part of our brain that explains those decisions, and the deciding comes first. The explanation or justification comes later. Here's what the explainer says. 1, I get to live at my mom's here for free, so I save $700 a month on rent. Maybe that gets me to the Philippines faster, if I'm saving that money. That seems like my rational brain says, yeah, that's a good reason. That works. Another part of me says that really has the reek of justification to it. That's probably not what motivated you. So another thing, my mom has been asking me to come here for a couple of years now, and I've been saying no, and eventually I said yes. She's 82. She still keeps cattle. She gets up every day, like I've discovered now. She gets up before the sun. I woke up this morning. I saw her pulling a big wagon full of hay past the window. She was going to feed the cows. And she's got several bulls. You only need one per herd. She's got 2 pastures here. So, presumably she needs 2, but she hasn't sold any cattle in like 2 years. So she has way more bulls than she needs. She's actually losing money on the cattle because, you know, the grass doesn't grow quick enough here in December and January and February for them to feed themselves. So she's got to feed them hay and other tidbits. So really, these are expensive, dangerous pets she's keeping. And a lot of them are bulls. You know, cows at least, they make more cows. And yeah, bulls do as well. But you only need one bull per herd. So I'm going to try to motivate her to get, you know, to reduce the size of the herd. Here. I'll take stills of this, but here's another truck. Very old truck. Let's see. Have a look at this. Tell me what year you think this truck is. So why did I move here? Well, again, every answer I come up with sounds like a justification. I just don't know. I don't know what finally made me pull the trigger, other than the fact that, you know, just before COVID, I was already really tired of the situation in Bellows Falls, and I was looking to move to Puerto Rico, and I had made an exploratory trip to Puerto Rico, and I remember missing the flight back. Our Uber took a really long time to get there, and so we missed our scheduled flight out of San Juan. And the guy that I went there with, actually Rob, who posted the first comment, we ended up spending like 10 hours in the San Juan airport. And I remember at the time, knowing about COVID. I don't think the name had been decided upon yet, but knowing that, there was this infectious disease going around, and being stuck 10 hours in an international airport probably wasn't a good thing. But nothing really had happened yet. You know, there were no lockdowns, there were no mask mandates, people weren't wearing masks that day in the airport. It was really, really early in that. But at that point, I was already sick of New England. I was sick of my existence in Bellows Falls. So I was ready for a change. And then, COVID fell onto my life and everybody's lives like a 50-pound wet blanket, if that's an acceptable metaphor. So, I was ready to go. I've been ready to go. Anyway, I've already invalidated any explanation that I can give you before starting to provide these explanations, so I'll stop there and move on to the next question. So, P. McClure writes, KMO, all the best in your next adventure. I shall miss Bellows Falls, but can't wait to see Arkansas. Hey, unless I have missed it, I don't think you've talked to Jim Cunsler lately. Please give him a call, get on C-Roam, or you on the K-Cast, or both. Cheers. Okay, I will. I will call Jim Cunsler. I haven't been putting out the main C-Roam podcast very often, and I haven't been talking to the old stable of guests much since I just made my public renunciation of all doomerism. And it's funny, the public renunciation of doomerism came just before COVID, maybe like a year before COVID, but now is a really profitable time to have a paranoid, narrative to pimp. People are really hungry for it. But when I first met Jim Cunsler, and even before I met him, I'm sure I heard him say this on a podcast or read it in his blog, but he used to say that he's allergic to conspiracy theories. And at the time, I wasn't a dyed-in-the-wool, 9/11 truther, but I was certainly open to 9/11 conspiracy narratives in a way that Jim wasn't. And I remember the first time we met in public was in Austin, Texas at a Congress for the New Urbanism event. But the second time we met in person, it was in Saratoga Springs, living at the place he called the meth lab. And it wasn't a meth lab. It was a, as manufactured homes go, it was a nice place. But I was there with a couple of C-Roam listeners, and one of the person who basically invited me up to Saratoga Springs to stay and, interview Jim, but also go around and do various things. He was much more into the 9/11 truth narrative than I was. And he and Jim kind of got into it. And Jim actually, brought his foot down and said, no, I believe that Building 7 actually did fall. It was not demolished. And it fell because of, whatever the official explanation was. Fire, and if you want to go back to 9/11, that's the real sticker is Building 7. that just doesn't fly. Anyway, I'm not going to get into that. Point being, I did listen. I have not been listening to the Cunsler cast in the last couple of years, but I did listen to an episode on my drive down. I just drove like 28 hours, something like that, over 2 days, not straight. And he's got I don't want to say a conspiracy narrative, but he's definitely got a COVID narrative that does not jive with the official narrative. And this is a really popular time for that right now. I mean, it's a wise thing to do if you're in business, as a podcaster, to gather a large audience. It is good to jump on board with one of the crystallized narratives. And I'm the one who's allergic to that kind of stuff. I don't want to get into anybody's COVID craziness. And I don't really care how much truth is in it. I mean, if it's like over 90% true, then yeah, I have to care about it. But I've really just been avoiding anybody who seems really obsessed with the topic, because I'm anti-obsessed with the topic. I'm just irritated with the tribalism. And, I know several people, like a lot of the people I know face to face, who really I know because of the C-Realm podcast, they all have strong feelings and deeply nuanced opinions about COVID and what's really going on. And I don't want to hear about it. I just don't want to hear about it. And, maybe I'm putting my head in the sand, but I really think that in a few years' time, most people who are really super into some alternative COVID narrative right now, and I'm not enshrining the mainstream narrative. I mean, I know it's lies, but the mainstream narrative is lies about everything. And I don't obsess over it. And I'm not really interested in taking in content made by people who are obsessing over it. This doesn't have a whole lot to do with my transition from blue to red, but this is where it's going. I'm answering questions. So Jim's a friend of mine. I've known him since 2008. We've hung out on many occasions. I've stayed at every house that every domicile that he has kept since the meth lab. I've seen several girlfriends come and go. I mean, just because I'm not interested in this topic doesn't mean I don't want to talk to him. So yes, I will remedy that long absence of KMO Jim Cunsler conversation once I've got a studio set up here and I can do proper interviews. Next question. All right, Peter Van Ort says, I literally just heard the term progressive stack for the first time yesterday, and now I hear it here. So yeah, I was talking about my time at Zuccotti Park, my very, very limited time at Zuccotti Park. When I was in New York in the fall of 2011, I did visit Zuccotti Park. I did go to a big protest down on Times Square, but for the most part, I was hanging out with, the digerati, folks like Mike Daisy. I was with the creative class and not the broke people who were hanging out down at the park. Mike Daisy, a very, very talented man. I stand in awe of his ability to present. I used to go to a networking dinner. Olga and I would go to a networking dinner at a friend of hers, and the friend was the business manager, I think, for Ringo Starr. And she would just, have these monthly dinners where anybody who was a creative person who wanted to, network, hate that word, but, get together and talk with and get to know and form connections with other creative people. This was in Red Hook, Brooklyn, which was always amusing to me, being a big Lovecraft fan, the horror at Red Hook. And Mike Daisy went to one of those things, and, there would be food. It was sort of a potluck. Wine flowing and people talking informally, and then we'd have dinner. And then during the dinner was the formal portion where everybody would, stand up and give their spiel, say what they're doing, what their projects are and everything. And not to toot my own horn, but I was pretty good at that. Just the extemporaneous talking to a room full of intelligent people and holding my own, probably better than most of the people in the room. And then Mike Daisy started coming to those dinners. And he was such a quantum leap above me, and in that skill set, that it was just one. It was a little, a little humbling, but at the same time, just very enjoyable to witness him doing that in real time, clearly with no preparation. He's not worried about his elevator pitch. But I bring up Mike Daisey because, I've been off Facebook for a long time now. And, since long before COVID. But Mike Daisey was one of those blue tribers that I really, really enjoyed talking to face-to-face IRL, and whom I really, really disliked on Facebook. I mean, he crystallized to the, the New York City artist, intellectual, blue tribe, absolutely hating the red tribers narrative very early on. He would post stuff about just how evil and awful white men are. It's like, I have no patience for that, no use for that at all. I don't live in New York City anymore, so I never see Mike Daisey anymore. And, Mike Daisey in person, I really enjoy. Mike Daisey on the internet, how did I get on that? Anyway, let's go back to the question. Oh, progressive stack. Yeah, progressive stack. So down at Zuccotti Park, if you were a straight white man, you didn't get to talk. They took everybody's questions for discussion and consideration in these group meetings, which were interminable, depending on your preference. And so they'd take them all and they'd read through them, and then they would sort them according to, your race, gender, sexual orientation, all that good stuff. And if you were a straight, white, heterosexual, cisgendered male, your topic didn't come up unless somebody with more check marks on the Oppression Olympic scorecard asked your same question. And that was the progressive stack. It was these days, I think, what do they say? Equity. We can't have equality because equality means white supremacy. So we have to have equity, which means that people with more check marks on the oppression scorecard get more. And it comes, it's a zero-sum game. It's got to come at the expense of people with fewer check marks on the scorecard. So anyway, yeah, the progressive stack has been in my vocabulary for a decade, and Peter just learned it. So welcome aboard, Peter. Let's see. Benjamin says, good luck. Thank you very much. Pedal Science says, this was a highly entertaining summary of your various living situations. Yes, I've had many, and I get to add one more here. James says, good luck. Look forward to hearing tales from Red America. Having lived my life in a country with socialized health care, free at the point of need, the US seems a real horror show. Yes, it is. The NHS here in the UK threatened by the increasing penetration of profit-seeking market actors, and I'm quite fearful of the outcome. Every time I take one of our cats to the vet, it feels a lot like when I go to see my doctor until I get the bill on the way out of the vet's. It's a sharp reminder of the reality of a for-profit health system and the different kind of decisions my family would make about our own health care if there were a price tag on each of our options. So that's really, really instructive that you bring up the comparison to veterinary medical care. Because here it's the exact opposite. Like here I go to the vet. Like on the East Coast, yes, vets are super expensive. And anyway, that's a tangent I won't take. But here in Red America, you get to choose the time of your pet's passing. In Blue America, that decision is left up to a vet. You don't get to pick, If you take your cat to the vet and your cat is very, very ill and has, let's see, it has very little chance of survival and no chance whatsoever of continued quality of life, but the vet knows that a $30,000 procedure might extend your cat's life for 6 weeks, it's not your call. You either sign up for that $60,000 procedure, or whatever it's going to be, or, you take the cat home and you drown it in a bathtub. But you can't give your cat that easy, dignified exit on your own, on your own recognizance, on your own judgment. Here in Blue America, if you take your cat to the vet to, have it put down, you're among the elite. I've seen many a cat shot here. But here, you know, if I go to the vet and, you know, just for rabies shot, checkup, whatever, and I come out and the bill is $60, I'm just astounded. Because if I myself went to a doctor for the exact same, you know, very routine care, you could easily add a zero to that. It could be $600. It could be much more. And if you go to an emergency room, God, forget about it. There's a story recently that went around on Red social media about a woman who went to the emergency room, waited for like 6 hours, received zero care. Nobody even attended to her. Nobody saw her. Nobody took her temperature. Nothing. She just sat in the waiting room for 6 hours, said forget it, and left. And she got a bill for $600. Because, you know, there are so many little charges. Little, you know, 600 is a little charge when it comes to billing, medical billing in America. You know, the hospitals just load up your bill with all these little things. And if you're sick, if your life is in turmoil because of a grave illness, and you have insurance, which is paying for most of it, you probably, unless you just make it your full-time job, you don't know what's on your bill. And so they pad it up, you know, with all of these charges, with weird names. You don't know what they mean. And here in Arkansas, veterinary science or veterinary medical care is not like that. It is affordable. The price is basically set by the market, and it is affordable, as actual human medical care used to be in this country. So, you know, I'm not the doctrinaire libertarian that I used to be, but I can fall back into that mode pretty easily. In fact, well, that's a tangent I'll save for a different video. Oh, I see we're over 20 minutes. I'll do one more question and then stop. All right. Carrie says, good luck, man. I was an artist in LA for many years. Now I'm out in the desert near Joshua Tree. I love it out here. I think you'll enjoy country life, especially if you convert that barn into a studio. So there's a grade A dairy barn here, which, you know, my family hasn't kept dairy cattle in decades. And it's basically just used for storage. And I was toying with the idea of converting it into a living space. But that's off the table for now. I'll throw up a picture of it, though. There are other barns here. One of them, here's a still image of it, is in very bad shape. This is the one closest to the house. There's a lower pasture with a better barn on it, which is, well, we won't go there. All right, well, this video needs to come to an end, but I didn't talk about any of my travels on the way down, so I'll do that hopefully in tomorrow's video. And as I say, I'll be doing mostly videos until I've got a workspace. So for those of you who mostly know me on YouTube, embarrassment of riches headed your way. For those of you who like the podcast KMO, be patient. There will be more podcasts.